The sun hung like a molten hammer above the desert, pounding us with heat that seemed almost alive. I could taste the dust thick in the air, smell the sharp tang of sweat and fear. Beneath my sandals, the earth shuddered. The armies of Egypt were coming, and I was there, standing among the warriors of KERMA, heart pounding like a war drum. I felt the scorching heat bake my skin, the ground vibrating beneath my feet as the thousands of warriors surged forward. My name is Amani, and I was but a young warrior in the ranks of Kush that fateful day. Yet the memories remain as vivid as the ochre paintings on our temple walls. For generations, the shadow of Egypt had loomed long over our fertile lands along the Nile. I was a young archer then, barely seasoned, but already hardened by years of raiding and defending our borders against the ambitions of the pharaohs. Today would be different. Today, the fate of Nubia itself rested on our shoulders. We would either rise victorious or be crushed beneath the golden wheels of Egypt's empire. Their pharaohs, driven by insatiable hunger for gold, ebony, and the rich bounty of our kingdom, had slowly pushed south, establishing forts and trading posts that felt more like shackles than pathways of commerce. We, the people of KERMA, the heart of Kush, chafed under this foreign influence. Whispers of rebellion turned into open defiance, fueled by the fiery spirit of our leaders. It was not a sudden clash, but a storm, long gathering. Pharaoh Thutmose I, hungry for glory and riches, had turned his gaze southward. KERMA, proud, rich and fierce, stood between him and the treasures of inner Africa, gold, ivory, exotic beasts. For years we had watched their power swell, their arrogance growing like a sickness, but they forgot. We were the sons of the desert and the river. We knew how to fight, we knew how to endure. I remember the tension in KERMA before the storm broke. It hung heavy in the air, thicker than the humid breath of the approaching rainy season. The marketplace, usually a riot of bartering and laughter, was subdued. The rhythmic pounding of grain mills seemed to echo the nervous beat of our hearts. In the weeks before the battle, our king, the mighty warrior Alara, a shrewd strategist and a man whose gaze could pierce through the bravest warrior's facade, he convened the chieftains beneath the great acacia. I was there, hidden among the ranks, hearing the oaths sworn on blood and bone. He spoke of our ancestral lands, of the spirits of our forefathers who watched from the sandstone cliffs, of the fierce independence that flowed in our veins like the life-giving Nile. His words were not mere pronouncements. They were a sacred oath, binding us together in a common purpose. We knew Egypt would come with chariots that glistened like fireflies, bronze armor that caught the sun like polished mirrors. We were confident in our skill, our cunning, and our indomitable will. Rumors carried on the winds spoke of a massive Egyptian force, thousands strong, marching up the Nile, with a flotilla of warships and river barges trailing their advance. Some among us trembled at the tales of magic, of divine favor. As Alara rallied the troops, I remember his voice, deep and cutting through our fear like a blade. It is not the gods who win battles, it is men, it is us. At dawn, our scouts returned with the grim news. They were close. The Egyptian army, spearheaded by their dreaded chariots and legions of disciplined infantry, was advancing south, slowly but relentlessly, setting fire to the fields and villages as they came, a trail of black smoke marking their path. Pharaoh Thutmose I, a name whispered with a mixture of fear and fury, intended to crush our burgeoning power once and for all. The day of the battle dawned with a chilling stillness. The sun, a malevolent eye in the pale sky, beat down on both armies. I could see the glint of Egyptian bronze in the distance, a seemingly endless wave of soldiers and chariots, their banners depicting the falcon god Horus snapping in the dry wind. Their arrogance was palpable, their confidence radiating like the heat haze shimmering above the sand. They underestimated us, thought us savages from the south, nothing but dark-skinned obstacles to their gods' ordained destiny. The battlefield chosen was a strategic plain just north of KERMA, a place where the natural terrain could work to our advantage. Alara had positioned our forces with cunning. Our infantry, armed with sturdy-hide shields, spears tipped with sharpened stone and later precious bronze, were arrayed in dense formations, a living wall against the expected chariot onslaught. Our famed archers, the eyes of our army, were concealed along the flanks, ready to unleash their deadly hail. We met them at the plains before KERMA, where the desert kissed the green banks of the Nile. I remember the stillness before the charge, the way the birds fell silent, the heavy, almost sacred weight of the moment. Then the horse sounded, ours first, a deep roar from the throats of war horns made from elephant tusks. A heartbeat later, the Egyptian trumpets replied, high and shrill, like the scream of some dying beast. The desert trembled as the armies of Kush clashed against the might of Egypt. Dust devils danced like restless spirits on the horizon, mirroring the unease that gnawed at my gut. The battle began with the thunder of hooves. Their chariots led the way, wheels slicing through the sand. The Egyptian chariots, each carrying a driver and an archer, surged forward, a terrifying spectacle of speed and deadly projectiles. Their archers unleashing scattered volleys of life-ending arrows. Dust billowed, obscuring the faces of the enemy, yet I could feel their intent to break our lines with a swift, decisive charge. But we were ready. Alara had anticipated this. As the chariots drew closer, our front ranks held firm, their shields locked tight. Then, from our concealed positions, the Nubian archers, the finest in the world, a disciplined corps trained since childhood, unleashed their fury, a relentless volley of arrows, fletched with the feathers of desert birds. The arrows darkened the sky, a black storm hurtling towards their gleaming golden chariots. Thousands of arrows rained down, not in scattered volleys, but in concentrated waves that tore through the Egyptian formations. I saw charioteers slump, their reins falling slack, horses screaming in agony as they were struck. The vaunted Egyptian charge faltered, their ranks thrown into disarray. I watched, heart-pounding, as Pharaoh's forces, their bronze armor radiating arrogance under the merciless sun, faltered, their initial charge shattering against our unwavering lines. I watched an Egyptian charioteer take a shaft through the eye, his body flipping backward of his golden cart. The sand drank blood that morning. At first, they pressed us hard, their disciplined ranks and flashing bronze driving back our forward lines. The ground trembled beneath their chariots, and fear gnawed at my gut. For a moment it seemed as if we might falter, but then a brilliant maneuver. Alara, who had studied the habits of the Egyptians for years, sprung a trap. We feigned a retreat, drawing the Pharaoh's forces into a narrow pass by the riverbank, where the terrain turned treacherous with hidden marshes and soft ground. The chariots bogged down. Their horses screamed and thrashed. Their drivers cursed and struggled. Taking advantage of this chaos, Alara gave the signal. With a guttural roar that echoed across the battlefield, our infantry surged forward. The clash was brutal, a maelstrom of steel, stone, and desperate cries. I fought alongside my brothers, our spears thrusting, our shields deflecting blows. The Egyptians, though well-equipped, were unprepared for the ferocity and unwavering determination of our warriors. We fought for our homes, our families, our very way of life. I remember one moment with stark clarity. A towering Egyptian warrior, clad in gleaming bronze, charged towards our line, his sword raised high. Fear clenched my heart, but the warrior beside me, a seasoned veteran named Bakari, simply grunted and stepped forward. His spear, with a swift, practiced movement, found a gap in the Egyptian's armor. The warrior stumbled, his eyes wide with shock before he fell to the dusty earth. It was in moments like these that I understood the true strength of our resistance. Not just in numbers or weapons, but in the unyielding spirit of our people. We struck. Spearmen surged from the reeds. Arrows hailed down from hidden platforms in the trees. I fired until my fingers bled, my arms aching, the string of my bow slicing my skin. In the chaos, we pressed our advantage. Our warriors, fierce and unyielding, closed in from all sides. The battle raged for what felt like an eternity. The sun climbed higher, casting long, grotesque shadows across the blood-soaked sand. Slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. The initial arrogance of the Egyptians, so proud, so certain of their divine superiority, now gave way to desperation as they fought for their lives. I remember, vividly, the moment I saw the Egyptian standard fall, their gilded banners trampled into the mud, their lines wavered, then broke. The cries of their officers could no longer stem the tide of retreat. In one moment, I locked eyes with one young enemy soldier, barely older than myself. His face was a mirror of my own fear, my own desperation. We clashed, blade against blade, until finally I stood victorious, breathless, my chest heaving as I took long, precious breaths, the reality of death heavy on my shoulders. The fields were littered with the fallen. KERMA had not only survived, we had triumphed. At dawn, the reality of the horrors and destruction of the battlefield became apparent, the Nile running red where the bodies tumbled into its current. But our people stood tall, battered, but unbroken. We watched, breathless and weary, as the remnants of the once mighty Egyptian army turned and fled, leaving behind their dead and the shattered remnants of their ambitions. The victory at KERMA was complete. A wave of jubilation swept through our ranks, a raw, primal outpouring of relief and triumph. We had stood against the most powerful empire of our time and emerged victorious. The immediate aftermath of the battle was one of both celebration and grim reckoning. We mourned our fallen, each loss a painful reminder of the cost of freedom. But the victory at KERMA had profound and lasting consequences. The defeat at KERMA rocked Egypt to its core. It marked a significant turning point in the relationship between Nubia and Egypt. For nearly half a century, Kush would remain independent, its borders secure. The aura of Egyptian invincibility was shattered, and the balance of power in the Nile Valley shifted, at least for a time. Thutmose would return to the south in later campaigns, but he would never again take KERMA lightly. Our victory bought us years of peace and preserved our independence, our culture, our very identity. Victory at KERMA. It wasn't just a battle. It was the defiant roar of our ancestors, securing our independence, a testament etched in blood and sand to Nubian resilience. In the markets of Nubia, songs were sung of that day, songs of courage, of sacrifice, of defiance. Our gold flowed north in tribute, not of submission, but of commerce on our terms. Our warriors became legends, our king a god among men. KERMA would go on to influence Egypt itself, our traditions and blood mingling in the centuries to come, shaping the destiny of both nations in ways few could foresee. The Battle of KERMA was not merely a clash of armies, it was a statement. We are here, we endure, we are Nubia. I was there, I saw it all. and I will never forget.
If you felt the sands of Kerma beneath your feet and the clash of bronze and bone in your heart, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more journeys through forgotten wars and hidden histories, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an epic story. Until next time, my friends, stay fierce, stay curious.